Hello, and welcome to Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined, where I help you care without losing for yourself and your dreams. If you're new to the channel, I'm Melissa Miller, a former certified nursing assistant with 15 years in long term care and a full time caregiver for my own family. I cared for my grandmother and father in the last 2 years of their lives, and since 2020, I've been a spousal caregiver and full time stay at home mother after my husband's sudden epilepsy diagnosis. And if you're anything like me, I have definitely had days throughout this journey where I have felt foggy, drained, or even just excuse me. Naturally, it's easy to think, oh, I'm sure it's just stress. I have so much going on in my life as a caregiver, a mom, or a spouse, or with my job. And that might be true. But here's the question. What if it's not? What if it is something else? What if it's one of three types of burnout? What if you're experiencing caregiver burnout? But first, hold up. Before we go any further, you might be wondering, what is caregiver burnout? Well, to put it shortly, caregiver burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that comes from the ongoing demands of caring for others, especially when your own needs are constantly being pushed aside. And burnout doesn't look the same for everyone. That's why today I want to break down three different types of caregiver burnout so you can recognize what you're feeling and take the first step towards feeling relief. So the first type is called physical burnout, and it's basically the running on empty version. Physical burnout is the easiest to recognize, and it feels like you're trying to drive a car after for hours on the road without stopping to refuel or take a bathroom break or get something to eat. You've been driving for hours without a stop at a gas tank, and now you're beginning to notice that your car is struggling to even get up the smallest of hills. And as a caregiver, these hills might be simple daily tasks such as getting dressed, prepping your loved one's meals, helping your loved one bathe or shower, helping them get to medical appointments. And now suddenly you feel like they're mountains, and your body's energy reserves are becoming very depleted, and your mind may be pushing forward, but your system is giving you a bunch of flashing warning lights. So these warning lights might be fatigue, body aches, disrupted sleep patterns, low immunity. I know for me, low immunity is a big one for me because when I really get burnout, I tend to get sick very easily. So that's my first warning sign. For you might be different. But why this matters is I want you to realize that being tired can be a chronic systemic depletion warning sign, okay? And over the years, both in my personal journey as a family caregiver and then as a professional caregiver for 15 years in long-term health, I definitely have had hard days where I've woken up and I felt rested, and ready to go. I've had good days where I'm ready to hit the floor running. But then I've had other days where I feel like it's all I can do to try to get out of bed and start my day. And I want you to know that burnout, first and foremost, is not laziness. Physical burnout is showing up in real life, and it's where you're struggling physically to get through your day and get through the tasks at hand. Now, the next one is called emotional burnout or the overheating engine. Emotional burnout is sneakier. This is like when your car engine is overheating. You might still be moving and still functioning, but you're running hot under your hood. Okay, everything feels heavier emotionally. You might find yourself snapping at your kids or your spouse or your loved one you're caring for. You might be more emotional and be crying more, or maybe you're even feeling numb, like you're just really not showing a lot of emotion. It doesn't mean that you still don't care, but the emotional capacity to feel and connect is getting fried. And what it can look like is increased irritability, disconnection, loss of joy or interest in normal activities that do bring you peace and joy, emotional numbness, that can be another one. And then why this matters is because it erodes the emotional bonds that make caregiving meaningful, excuse me. There was a time, many days I remember at the start of my caregiving journey with my husband during the pandemic. I often felt like I was just a robot. I was doing everything on the outside, but I felt flat and hollow and just disconnected on the inside in terms of my emotions. The third one is called mental burnout, and this is when your transmission is slipping. Mental burnout is when your caregiving transmission starts to slip. You may be still pressing the gas pedal, trying to keep going, trying to keep your car moving down the road, but your drive isn't reacting the way it should be, and your car is not going anywhere. You might feel like you have nothing left to give, cognitively, spiritually, or even mentally. It can show up in the form of symptoms such as brain fog, trouble making decisions, zoning out, even in the middle of a conversation, forgetfulness. And it can feel like cognitive overload, indecision, forgetfulness, zoning out. And this disrupts your ability to think clearly and effectively, which as a caregiver, you need to be able to be, right? You need to be able to think clearly and react quickly sometimes when you're caring for your loved one. And if that's disrupted, it can make the chance of making a mistake in your loved one's care a higher risk. And no one wants that. And I know you don't want that. And this was one of the hardest things for me to admit because I didn't feel like myself anymore. You know, when I knew I didn't feel like myself anymore, um, it was really hard to admit because as the wife, as the caregiver, as the mom, it's my job, obviously, right, to take care of my family, and take and meet their needs, and especially for my husband in managing his illness. But the fact that I didn't feel like myself anymore, and I just felt so burnt out, it was really hard. But you know what? Take when I actually admitted it to myself and to my husband that I need some help and I'm struggling, that was the first step towards getting my power back of not letting burnout thrive because burnout often thrives in silence because when we keep ignoring it and just trying to and not facing it and doing anything about it in terms of action, it just hangs over us like a dark cloud. But the no, moment you name it, you begin to take back your power. Now, I don't want to say, I want to say that none of these types of burnout mean that you're broken or that you're a bad caregiver or you're a bad person, okay, or that you're doing a horrible job. You're doing a great job and you're doing the best you can. Burnout simply means that you've been giving more than you've been receiving, and it's time to start receiving again, starting with awareness. So, now that you've heard a little bit about the three types of caregiver burnout, I want to know about where you're at right now. So leave a comment below and let me know. I read everyone and I want you to know that you're not alone. And if this video helped you feel more seen, please go ahead and share it with other caregivers you know in your circle that might be feeling burnt out, depleted, physically, mentally, emotionally, and might need some encouragement in that first step and being assured that this is not their fault and that there is a way out. So be sure to share this video. And also, if you've ever struggled with feeling guilty for needing rest, for slowing down, for pressing pause, don't miss my next video, Why Pausing Makes You Stronger as a Caregiver. And as always, I hope you know that you are doing an amazing job. And I know you're doing the best you can to take care of the people you love. But with all that being said, as a caregiver, I don't want you to forget to take time for yourself, to love on yourself, and give yourself the time that you need to take care of your mind, your body, and your soul. Take care, and I'll see you next time.